Tennessee is a 7.5-point favorite against NC State. They started as a 5.5-point favorite, which I thought was a disturbingly low line. And from Sunday to Monday, they moved it to 7.5. Why'd they move it that easily? Why'd they move it that? The question is, why did they have it so low? And why did they move it that quickly? Do you guys think that was Tennessee betting? Or do you guys think that was Tennessee fans betting? Or do you think that they realized they screwed up with this line?
I think the line was low, but it's the same thing. It's like when they mess up your order at a restaurant and you tell them to bring it back. So then I think Tennessee fans jumped all over that number and it quickly moved to 7.5. I'm not surprised at all it moved to 7.5. Tennessee is one of the biggest gambling schools out there. My question for you is, does it move to double digits by the end of the week? That would be a massive move, 4.5 overall points.
Going from 5.5 to 10 would be insane. Yeah. That's where I'm at though. So lines move for two reasons. Lines move because somebody one side gets a lot of money thrown that way, or the odds makers realize they made a mistake. This line moves so fast. I think the odds makers realized they made a mistake. I'm going to tell you what happened, Dave. I think they had the lines preset at 5.5 before this weekend slate of games, and they didn't think to change it. And then
just to get that money first, is that the theory? I mean, if you're going to lose the money as a bookmaker, why would you do that?
I think this is why lines move sometimes. Sometimes lines move because people realize they made a mistake. They can move for three reasons. One, they can move because a lot of money is bet on somebody. Two, they can move because new developments come. What would they have learned about Tennessee from Sunday to Monday? Nothing. Okay, there's nothing new they would have learned that we don't already know. And three, somebody realized they set the line too low and it was a total mistake and miscommunication, or something got lost in the shuffle. I think that's what happened here. I think somebody made a mistake. Either somebody accidentally came out with that line at 5.5. Bookmakers accidentally were setting that line at 5.5 because they had already preset it. Or I think I think that's it. I think that's what happened. So
I say another thing that's going to happen, and it's going to give Tennessee's fan base a chance to make some money. Is get on these numbers earlier, especially this season, because I believe there are some odds makers that look at Tennessee and got burned last year because they heard about how talented Joe Milton was, and they thought the offense would hit another level, Caleb, and they got burned, just like the media did that I thought picked Tennessee too low at 15. And I believe that Tennessee moved the line, but my theory is Vegas says that Josh Heupel guy throws up a bunch of points on lesser teams, so not factoring that out. Maybe it was set before, gambling way better than me, but I just don't. I think this is a situation in which Tennessee jumped all over it, because Tennessee fans, and I've talked to people in Vegas about this, they not only moved the line, Texas, pardon me, Texas is another school that say something insightful.
Oh, fan bases that move the line. Yeah, no, I think you're right.
No,
you were saying
that, so I'm sorry, I got choked up. But the fan bases that move the line, Notre Dame, Texas, Tennessee is right up there. I'm telling you guys. I mean, and Caleb, I don't know if you know this, but Knoxville was once considered the East Coast gambling town other than Atlantic City. And there were poker rooms back in the 70s and 80s off every block that went till 5 a.m. Are you aware of that?
I was not aware of that. Must have been speakeasies.
Yeah, I know a guy that ran one. I mean, he was just the dealer and he took home the house money, but he ran a poker room and they were everywhere. So Knoxville, for whatever reason, is a monstrous gambling town. As a matter of fact, with this line, what do you think will happen over the next 2 days, if anything?
I think the line closes even higher, closes up at 9. Now, if we'll know, by the way, Dave, we'll know if this line was moved based on too many people scooping up Tennessee, -5.5, or it moved because they realized they made a mistake. If it moves back towards the 5.5, then your theory is right. It'll be a bunch of people bet on this when it was 5.5, and then it slowed. But if it keeps moving up, like Tennessee 8, Tennessee 9, then that means the odds makers are saying, wow, we really screwed this up. The other point is, I don't think it was just Tennessee fans that moved this line. I think national bettors all just watched NC State over the weekend and watched Tennessee, and national bettors like, what the heck? Who in the world would set this Tennessee minus 5.5?
I'm just throwing this out there for funsies because I love the YouTube poll question that we figured out a couple of months ago. I gamble, yes or no. What percentage of fans in general of college football gamble, do you think? Because right now it's about 50-50.
I would say 45% of college football fans gamble. Because half of them, I mean, not half, but a lot of them still live in states where gambling is not allowed.
I posted, because I like to do it, another poll question that said I would take the Vols as a blank favorite. They are 7.5. So everybody would take them against NC State. They are a 7.5 point favorite, move from 5.5 now to 10.5, 12.5, 14.5. Let me ask you, would you take Tennessee if last week you said they'd be a 16 point favorite? I said 8 or 9. Okay. Would you take them as a 14.5 point favorite? Gun to your head, you got to choose.
Yeah, I'm taking an alternate spread on FanDuel this week, and I want to try to get rich off it because the line is 7.5, and I bet that payout's going to be epic when I take 14.5.
How does that work? How do you? So it's like you can adjust the line, and then
whatever the line is, you can adjust alternate lines, and if the more adjusted it is, the better the payout is. Put it that way. Yeah. So if you take Tennessee, the line is Tennessee minus 7.5. If you take Tennessee minus 6.5, you'll get less money than you would if you took a straight line. But if you took the minus 8.5, 9.5, 10.5, you're gonna start making some money.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to gamble, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you that Tennessee's going to hammer NC State. I'm saying it on Monday. That's Dave's eye test of seeing both teams play. It was very convenient to be able to see them on a Thursday because sometimes you get so caught up in covering games. By the way, we turned out a ton of content on Saturday, so be sure and check it out. A lot more that we're going to talk about headed into the week. Very touching story if you haven't been to offthehooksports.com about how Brew McCoy lost his grandfather in the offseason. The first steps he took out of his boot were actually when his grandfather, who passed away in December, was on his deathbed. But he was able to get up and give Brew a hug. So I thought that was really inspiring stuff. And we'll have more on that probably tomorrow.